Once again, if you guys like the content, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the upcoming content. We have just had an incredible 4 sessions of qualifying for the Las Vegas 4-wide Nationals. We got a lot to look forward to tomorrow, as well as throughout the rest of the season, because man, oh man, this is just going to get better as we head into the summer months. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of the upcoming updates. And without further ado, let's get into the video. I always talk about how NHRA in the modern era is not to miss content, and every single time I say it, it always proves itself correct in some way, shape, or form, whether it's that event or throughout the following races that continue afterwards. And once again, it proves itself once again about how this is the sport to watch in 2025, and how if you are not watching, you're missing out on the best form of motorsports in the country right now. We've only gone through 4 rounds of qualifying for the NHRA Las Vegas 4-wide Nationals, and we already have major season-changing storylines to look forward to, not only for the following events, but for the years to come after what just transpired here today and on Friday. We went into Friday with hot and dry conditions that provided some very tricky conditions for tuners to get around in the Nitro categories. For the Pro Stock tuners, it's not that much of a deal for it to happen. They can tune around that. For the Nitro cars, it really made today critical in deciding the ladders for Sunday and who is going to be in and who is going to be out come race day. And there were some big names who almost missed the show in that final round of qualifying, but were able to sneak their way in. In the funny car, the big storyline coming out of there is the Jim Head Racing team of Spencer Hyde. In the past, they had Blake Alexander, and every now and again, they showed signs of brilliance where they became the top team in the class, and how there were always a team who, regardless if they qualified 8th or they qualified 12th, you could never look past them. And it seems to be happening once again with Spencer Hyde, who has quickly found a knack for driving one of these funny cars. If you remember back at Gainesville as well as Arizona, they missed both of those races. They were able to make it to Pomona, won round 1, coming to Las Vegas, almost stole the number 1 qualifier spot on Friday and almost held on to it going into Saturday, but only fell down to, I believe, 3rd or 4th. We'll look at that when we go through the recap here in a bit. But they were able to sneak out a win in the first ever 4-wide Mission Foods Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge, beating some massive names in the process to get there, and still holding on to a top half qualifying position. So they go into Sunday as a likely contender with how crazy these 4-wide races are to be able to steal this race with how they're able to make it on the racetrack, while a lot of the big name tuners are still struggling to get those quality ETs down there. I think he's one of the few drivers actually to break into the 3-second bracket following the 4 rounds of qualifying. However, Spencer Hyde's going to have a lot of work ahead of him, as well as that Jim Head Racing team, because while he did win the race, he also blew up the body. Obviously, the burst panels came out, but also damaged some of the front of the car as well, and Jim Head was very openly upset about that, because regardless of the bonus money, regardless of the points that comes with it, he said he hates damaging parts, and that's something that is very well known about Jim Head, for better or for worse, because he was very vocally upset about the fact that he doesn't like destroying parts. He's very conservative with the parts he runs. He doesn't like going after big ET numbers if it's going to hurt the parts that he has on the race car, and sadly that is what happened here. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this transpires throughout the rest of the season. The other big storyline as well is in Pro Stock. We talked about throughout the first 4 races of the season about how Elite Motorsports has been struggling. KB Titan has been dominant since the start of the season, even dating back to the NHRA finals, which I keep talking about when we see these Greg Anderson, Dallas Glenn final rounds. Today was where it really seemed to shine. This is the biggest gap that we've seen between the 2 teams of KB Titan and Elite Motorsports, and it just keeps getting wider. Throughout all of qualifying, the elite car struggles. Heading into the day, Eric Enders wasn't in the show, and that seemed to continue throughout the rest of the day. We were in a position where we almost had Eric Enders, Greg Stanfield, Troy Coughlin Jr., and Jed Coughlin Jr., and Aaron Stanfield, all being guys who had to fight their way between each other just to bump their way into the show. Some of those drivers were able to advance their way in, but there's still some massive names who are missing from that 16-car grid throughout a 22-car field. There was a lot of drivers that had to go home, and sadly, a lot of them were the Elite Motorsports. And this is going to be a massive storyline heading into Charlotte and beyond, because now with Elite Motorsports, it's full teardown mode, because when they get back to Oklahoma with those cars, they're going to have to tear it all the way down to the bare car and build it right back up, because I can tell you right now, they're not going to be happy with the performance they've seen. If you look throughout it again, 6 of the top 8 in the top half of the standings were all KB Titan cars. There's only one Elite Motorsports powered car, and then Mason McGahey. And then, like I said, 4 of the bottom 6 of the drivers who didn't make it in are all Elite cars. So there are some massive names missing from this Pro Stock grid. Let's take a look at that, and we can look forward to Sunday and beyond. In Pro Stock, Greg Anderson ends the day with a 661 with a 4 to take #1 qualifying honors. Cody Coughlin with an incredible turnout this weekend in Las Vegas moves himself up to second with a 663. Dallas Glenn with a 663.7 rounds out third, as well as a Mission Foods Too Fast, Too Tasty win. Matt Harper rounds out fourth. Corey Reed continues to impress in fifth. Mason McGahey, and what Jason Galvin said could be a weekend where he could steal the win, but just how crazy it is, rounds out sixth. Derek Kramer in 7th, and Christian Quadra, the one Elite Motorsports powered car, ends up 8th. Jet Coughlin, who went into the final round of qualifying in the Mission Foods Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge final, not qualified into the show, needing to bump his way in, almost snuck out the victory, but did not, however, win the race, but did bump himself up to 9th with a 669. Matt Latino bumped himself up to 10th. Aaron Stanfield, who's in Q3, not in the show, bumps himself up to 11th. Brandon Foster in 12th. Fernando Quadra Jr. 13th, David Quadra in 14th, Chris McGahey in 15th, and Eric Latino in 16th. And again, if you want to take an idea about how close this Pro Stock field is, just look at the bottom half of the field right there. 10th, 11th, and 12th were all tied to the thousandths of a second, had to be decided on a mile an hour. And then even for the final spots in the grid, a 669 with a 3 was the one that decided. Chris McGahey beat Eric Latino on mile an hour as well. As for the drivers not in the show, first car out, the big storyline, Erica Enders, a 6-time champion, not qualified for the NHRA Las Vegas 4-wide, her first D&Q in almost a decade, dating back to Charlotte 2. Greg Stainfield as well, not in the show. Stephen Bell in 19th. Troy Coughlin Jr., who had a very impressive start to the season, looked to be a guy who could contend for the championship. He fails to qualify with a 6.701. Kenny Delco qualifies 21st, and Joey Gross, who had a disappointing weekend, he rounds out 22nd. In Funny Car, Paul Lee, who continues to impress this season, ends up #1 with a 394. Austin Brock, who struggled through all of qualifying, was struggling to get down the racetrack in Q2 and Q3, was able to get a good run in Q4, bumps himself up to second. Spencer Hyde with a 396 with a 5 stays in third. J.R. Ty with an impressive 397 ends up fourth. Jack Beckman back in fifth. Hunter Green in his first ever start in a Funny Car with a top half result in sixth. Cruz Pedregon, who almost stole the Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge win, ends up in 7th, and Daniel Wilkerson rounds out the top half with a 4.011. In the bottom half of the grid, you're going to find Bob Taskett a 3rd. Ron Capps, who is not in the show in Q4, bumps himself up to 10th. Dave Richards with an impressive run in 11th. Matt Hagan back in 12th. Bobby Bodie 13th. Buddy Hole in 14th. And Jason Rupert, who bumped himself in on his Q4 run, ends up 15th. And Chad Green sneaks in with a 16th place effort. Again, the 3 cars not in the show. Another massive storyline, Alexis DeJoria, who had a struggling start to the season but was able to pull off some incredible round 1 wins to impress the field in her 2025 campaign. Her first D&Q of the season, ends up 17th. Dylan Winefsky, in his first debut in a Funny Car after just getting his license a week ago, had an impressive weekend all throughout qualifying, but sadly fails to make a show with a 427, and Jeff Deal as well fails to make a show with a 451. And lastly, in Top Fuel, Doug Coletta, who stole the Mission Foods Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge win, steals #1 qualifying honors with a 373. Brittany Force ends up in 2nd. Antron Brown rounds the field out in 3rd. Steve Torrance, who last minute entered this event, rounds out in 4th. Tony Stewart, who again is having an impressive weekend, he ends up 5th. Almost took the Mission Foods Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge win. These 4-wide events are something that he ends up to be really good at that, so he's going to be one of those drivers to watch heading into Sunday. Jasmine Salinas again impresses up in 6th. Sean Reed in 7th. Justin Ashley ends up in 8th. Actually blew the blower off the car and was sitting sideways at the end of his run. He ends up in the 8th position. Clay Milliken rounds out in 9th. Josh Hart back in 10th. Sean Langdon 11th. Rob Passy in 12th, who during his Q3 run actually broke a wing strut that was holding the rear wing up. He was unable to make it back out for Q4. He only was able to have one recorded time that was all the way back in Q number 1. Steve Chrisman ends up in 13th, Terry Todd in 14th, and Scott Palmer, who blew up on the starting line, rounds out in the final in 15th position. And as always, we have highlights courtesy of the fastest motorsport on earth from our friends at NHRA and Fox. Let's take a look at that, and then we can look forward to Sunday's eliminations.
Dallas Glynn's in lane 4. Jake Coughlin Jr. is not yet qualifying. This is the finals of the Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge. Off the starting line first is Dallas Glynn, and at the finish line, it's Dallas Glynn, 6:63.7, beats Matt Hartford 6:63.9, and Jake Coughlin Jr. bumps Erica Enders from the show. Jake Coughlin goes 6:66.9 up to number 9, and Erica Enders will have race day off for the first time since Charlotte 2, 2016. Unbelievable turn of events for that team. Greg Anderson went 6:61.4. He was actually low of the quad, but was late on the treat.
Oh, here we go. Paul Lee gives it a ride. 394.0. Paul Lee. You could see that thing was trucking. 407.1 for Matt Hagan, 462 for Jeff Deal. And you've got a new number 1 qualifier.
Left first, Stewart's out with a 36 line. He smokes the tires again, and at the finish line, you saw a pop down there. It will be Doug Coletta. 373 beats a 375 at 331 miles an hour by 25 thousandths of a second. Pretty wild here.
Angel Sampey, the Mission Foods brand ambassador, puts the medallion around Doug Coletta's neck, who ended qualifying with authority. Not only do you take home the top fuel title, but you get the number 1 qualifying spot as we head into race day tomorrow. Not a bad way to end the day. Am I right, Doug?
Absolutely, yeah. Alan Johnson and this whole Mac Tools Toyota team. It was a great run, yeah. And the Mission Foods, it's just great running, having a race on Saturday, and we obviously appreciate all their support, and they obviously do a great job out here with the NHRA. So we'll love those guys, and we got a trophy and a plaque, and we'll just get ready for tomorrow.
Got one more thing for you. Let's put that on real quick. That's the yellow hat signifying your number 1 qualifying effort.
All 4 cars leave. Hagan's looking good, but look at that. Spencer Hyde's going to do it. Spencer Hyde at the finish line. How about you, kid? 396.8, 318 miles an hour, and Jim Head almost cracked a smile up there.
And Angel Sampey gets a medallion around the neck of Spencer Hyde for the first time in his career. He is a funny car winner. This time it's a Mission Foods Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge. You're a rookie driver. You're going 4 wide, and you pull out the victory. Can't get much better than this, can it?
No, it's pretty special. First 4-wide experience, first win in anything in NHRA, so pretty pumped about that. I got to give it to my guys. They turned that car around in about 35 minutes and gave me a good hot rod there for the final. It looks like it blew up in the lights. I got a little work to do, but I just can't thank my team enough. Everybody that supports me, my family, everybody. Mission for this deal. This is so cool. I'm pretty happy right now.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
For Too Fast, Too Tasty honors, and to find a spot for Jeg in the show, if he can get there. You can see the face of Erica scrunched up as she is under pressure. Here we go. Coughlin's run is clean. A couple of cars seem to be quicker, and at the finish line stripe, the win light will come on for the driver of Dallas Glenn. Matt Hartford goes through the second finisher, and Jeg goes through a 6:66.9. Coughlin will bump Enders out of the field.
Angel Sampey, the brand ambassador for Mission Foods, putting the medallion around Dallas Glenn's neck. Dallas, You did it on a hole shot, and it wasn't just a little one. It was a pretty good one. I know you and Greg have had a massive battle going back and forth heading in from actually last year. How good does it feel to keep turning on wind lights?
Oh, it definitely feels good. You know, I've starting to get a little bit more comfortable. I know I've been in this car a while, but I'm getting a little bit better and a little bit better. You know, I never should have given him that. You know, I screwed up there in that Phoenix race, but I'm definitely coming for him. He's going to have his hands full tomorrow. We got a great car. I'm hitting the tree good. If I can just make 3 good solid runs tomorrow, I don't see any reason why we can't be holding the trophy at the end of tomorrow.
And that is going to wrap the video. In terms of looking at the drag racing bracket bonanza picks, I don't know how you're going to be able to pick this. Qualifying was topsy-turvy. It was unpredictable every single step of the way. I once again think whoever wins the drag race bracket bonanza plaques today and the awards that comes with it, it's going to be purely off guessing, because there's no way that you can logistically make any sort of prediction with what's going to happen tomorrow. These 4 wide races are as crazy as it is, and now you're talking about having to just go through everything that just happened in pro stock. I think that's where the real craziness is going to happen, as well throughout funny car, with likes of Spencer Hyde being up there in the 3rd position and Austin Prock struggling, while Paul Lee has the #1 qualifying orders, and you still have some massive names in the bottom half of the field in Top Fuel. Same way there. I mean, Tony Stewart, could this be the weekend he steals it? Jasmine Salinas has had an impressive run. Clay Milliken coming off a win at Pomona. You look at Josh Hart, he's having an impressive start to the season. Sean Langdon, who's usually really good throughout the season and really consistent, down in 11th. The slowest of the full-time drivers. That's going to be one to watch, because honestly, with how consistent he is throughout most of the season, he could steal this from the 11th position. So again, there's no logistical way to guess who's going to get these wins. I have zero idea on who I'm going to pick. I'm going to have to look at the brackets and just think really hard on this, but I'm probably still going to miss the mark on every single pair. This is going to be crazy. If you don't watch tomorrow on FS1, you are missing out, because this is going to be a classic of a national event, and you're going to want to make sure that you not only watch the race tomorrow on FS1, but also the recap, which you're going to find here on Mighty Mac on YouTube. So be sure to subscribe to the channel for that. Also, because we're going to be live in Chicago next month for the Route 66 Nationals as well. We just got our credentials approved for the 109th running of the Indianapolis 500, so we're going to be back for the month of May, courtesy of our friends at Peak Performance. So it's going to be a very fun month of May to cover as we get ready for Cal Larson's last attempt at the Indianapolis 500, as well as the Route 66 Nationals in Chicago, which is always a highlight of the season and is always one of the crazy races to watch for upsets in both the racing and as well here qualifying. So be sure to follow us here on the channel. Follow me on social media pages down below, MightyMac03 on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And until Sunday night, this has been Mighty Mac. We'll see you next time.